Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Mrs. Hagan back with the Inference strategy. Today, we're going to be focusing on factual questions. A few reminders before we get started. Please make sure you are pausing, rewinding, and replaying. Do whatever you need to do to make sure you are focused and engaged. Next, any questions you have, please make sure you're passing those questions along to your teacher so we can get those answered for you. And then lastly, any feedback you have for me, any changes I can make, modifications, improvements, also share that with your teacher. That way I can do whatever I need to do to make sure this is the best experience for you guys. Okay, today we're going to take a deeper dive into factual questions. We're going to practice identifying factual questions, and we're also going to practice finding the answers to factual questions within a passage. We're going to be using guided notes. So if you will, please pull up your guided notes from the last time we met. They should say Inference Strategy Guided Notes number 1. They look just like this. If you scroll down to the bottom, you will see Inference Strategy Guided Notes number 2. We're only going to be working in this section that says factual questions. This is the only part that we're filling in during our lesson today. So we've got 3-star bullets to fill in. If you'll take about 10 seconds just to skim over your guided notes for today so you know what you are looking for and what you are listening for. Okay, so 2 things I want to say about guided notes. Number 1, whatever worked well for you last time, whether it was maybe you had the split screen capability and that was helpful, or maybe you were pausing the video and you went over to fill your guided notes and then you came back. Whatever worked well for you last time, please do that again this time. Just make sure you're getting those guided notes. Next thing, guided notes are a resource. Please make sure you are using them. Especially later on in our lesson when you're completing independent practice, those guided notes are going to be very, very helpful. Last reminder, if you see red or you see green, make sure you remember that signals to you guided notes. Okay, before we unload any new information today, I want to make sure we do some really quick review. What is an inference? If you're not sure, you have your guided notes as an excellent resource. So we know an inference is a conclusion or a guess based on hints or facts that we have learned. Inference strategy, it has a mnemonic, and that mnemonic is infer. Infer, I, interact with the passage and the questions. N, note what you know. F, find the clues. E, explore supporting details. And R, return to the questions. And we know we have 4 question types. Factual, we code with an F. Big picture, we code with a B. Predicting, we code with a P. And clarifying, we code with a C. Okay, that brings me to, what is a fact? Well, a fact is anything that is true or real, anything that can be proven. So for example, I am a brunette. That is a fact because it is true, it is real, it can be proven. But when we're reading, we consider a fact anything to be that the author has told us or anything that has occurred. So if it's an event, it's a fact within the story. If the author told us something, it's a fact within a story. So for example, if we have a character and his name is Bob, and Bob has a dog named Spot, we know that's a fact because the author told us Bob's dog is named Spot. We consider that a fact from the story. May not be a fact in real life, but in the story, we consider it a fact. So you've got your visual cues for your guided notes. Please make sure you're filling them in. If you need to pause, and then come back when you're ready. A fact is something that is true or real. When reading, a fact can be something that occurred, like an event, or something the author told you about. Again, make sure you have those in your guided notes. Factual questions are the easy ones because the answers are right there in the text. We can literally underline those answers, highlight them, circle them, whatever we do to notate, hey, here's the answer to my factual question. So some examples of factual questions. And I want to see if you guys notice something as I read these questions. Who was texting Maddie at 2 a.m.? What time did Josh finally wake up? Where did the woman buy toilet paper? No, for real, where did she buy toilet paper? Because where I live, we can't find toilet paper anywhere. Coronavirus has wiped out every paper product there is. Last example. How many days did Bob forget to brush his teeth? really hope you guys are still brushing your teeth. So if you notice, you probably started to hear who, what, where, how. So oftentimes our factual questions will be a who, what, where, when, why, or how question. So this next part is for your guided notes. So possible factual question keywords. And I say possible because it's not an end all be all. It's not an always. It's a usually, but not always. So usually your factual questions will have who, what, where, when, why, or how. So if you will, go over to your guided notes. This should actually be the last part of your guided notes today. And fill in right here under possible factual question keywords who, what, where, when, why, or how. And again, we use the word possible because it's not always, but they are possible keywords for factual questions. Remember to pause if you need to pause and then come back when you are ready. One thing I do want to note though, past versus future questions. So oftentimes factual questions will be associated with information in the text, meaning it's in the past. So things the author has told us about. Future questions will often have the word will. So, for example, when will, or how would, or when do you think, those are going to be predicting questions. So just be very, very mindful when you're analyzing the question. Or think to yourself, is this asking me about something in the text that I can underline that happened in the past? Or is this asking me to make a prediction, something that happens in the future? We're not going to jump into prediction questions today, but I just want you to be mindful and make sure you are really analyzing the question. And just because it has a who, what, where, when, why, or how doesn't necessarily mean it's always a factual question. Make sure you're paying attention to what the question is asking you. So, speaking of what the question is asking you, in order to determine what the question is asking you, we have to pay attention to keywords. These keywords are really important in our end step. Note what you know, because in order to code a question to determine what type it is, we have to look at the keywords in the question. So for example, our first question here says, what time did Josh finally wake up? If we were to underline our keywords in this question, we would underline what time Josh and then wake up. And we know that this is asking us something that is going to be right there in the passage. The passage will tell us what time Josh woke up. So we know this is a factual question. So an important part of identifying these keywords are also thinking to yourself, okay, so if my keywords are what time Josh wake up, I know in the passage I'm probably going to be looking for words associated with time. So maybe 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, the word o'clock, a.m., p.m. I know I'm going to be looking for the name Josh. I'm also going to be looking for the pronoun he. Wake up, so things associated with waking up, morning, afternoon. Types of things that we would think of, okay, these are clue words that are connected to our keywords. Next example, where did the woman buy toilet paper? So our keywords here, where, woman, buy, and toilet paper. And sometimes when you are underlining your keywords within your questions, you're going to feel like you're underlining the entire question. That's totally okay. Sometimes we do underline the entire question because all the keywords within the question are important. So where did the woman buy toilet paper? We know this is a factual question because yes, we have the word where, but remember, it's not always going to be a factual question. But in this instance, we're going to be able to go to the text and it's going to tell us where the woman bought toilet paper. So when we think about our keywords, where, woman, buy, and toilet paper, it's asking us for a location. So when we think about locations where we buy toilet paper, so maybe we're thinking about a store like Target or Walmart or a grocery store. We know we're going to be looking for woman. So maybe the woman has a name. Maybe the woman's name is Miss Gillum. So we're going to be looking for Miss Gillum in the passage. And then, of course, our keyword we're going to be looking for in the passage, clue-wise, would be toilet paper. Lastly, how many days did Bob forget to brush his teeth? I hope this doesn't apply to any of you. So our clue words, or our keywords, are going to be how many days Bob forget, that's an important one, and then brush teeth. These are our important keywords, and these are going to help our brain hone into those clue words within the passage. We know this is a factual question. We code it with an F because the answer to this question is going to be right in the text. And when we think of clue words associated with our keywords, so days, we might be looking for numeric values. So like 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, we're going to be looking for the name Bob. And then brushing his teeth. So maybe we're looking for words associated with that, like toothbrush, water, bathroom, things like this that are going to say, oh, hey, I think I'm about to find an answer to one of my questions. So one thing I want to point out before we actually practice applying the inference strategy is that these steps are flexible. And I want you as a reader to be flexible as well. And what I mean by that is once you've interacted with the passage and the questions and you move into the N, the F, the E, the R, you might notice that you might be exploring supporting details and you're coming to the end of the passage. You'd be like, wait, I think I missed something. And you might go back and you might find more clues. Or you might be in the R step. You might have returned to your questions and there might be an answer that you're not quite sure of, or there might be two answer choices that you're like, I don't know which one to pick. So that's where you go back and you explore supporting details. So these steps are fluid. And what I mean by fluid is you can move through them freely. So you might know what you know, get all the way down to the R step, return to the question, and be like, wait a second, I think I coded this question incorrectly. And you might change it from a factual question to a predicting question. So strong readers go through these steps fluidly, be flexible. Use these steps as you need to in order to make a strong inference, in order to answer those questions. Okay. So next thing I want to do is model for you or show you what it looks like to apply the inference strategy to a passage. You have this passage in your Google Drive. So it's up to you whether you want to follow along with me on this screen and you can actually watch what I'm doing right here in the lesson, or if you would like to go to your Google Drive and pull up this passage. It looks just like this. You can be underlining, highlighting, whatever you want to do to notate the clues as you find them and as I find them. You can do that here as well. So whatever works best for you, go for it. I'm going to be working right here within the lesson. And one thing you'll notice is I wrote infer here to the side. Now I know you probably can't do that in your Google Doc, but you can have your guided notes handy, or if you have a scratch sheet of paper, you can write infer down the side to help you remember the steps of the strategy and to help remind you that you can move fluidly between those steps as needed. So first thing I'm going to do is start with my I step. And I know I in infer is interact with the passage and the questions. And this begins by reading the title. My title is Tornado Watch. So I know I'm probably going to be reading something that has to do with a tornado. Next thing I do when I'm interacting with the passage and the questions is I'm skimming the passage. Got 4 short paragraphs here. I'm going to skim them. Salim, Selena, teenage girls, infant, home, tornado, cell phone call. I see baby again, falling branches, 74 Ford Fairlane. It says hospital, what's your name, emergency room, bright lamps, Xena warrior princess, and then leg. Seems like an interesting passage. I know it's something to do with a baby and a tornado and then a hospital. So then the next part of noting what I know, interacting with the passage and the questions is to actually read the questions. And now this is where you'll notice I'm also going to jump into noting what I know. And that looks like this. So as I am reading the question, where is Luna? I'm going to start noting what I know by underlining my keywords in order to determine the question type. So where and Luna, these are my keywords. It's a where question, and I know this is something I'm going to be able to find right in the passage. So I know that this is a factual question. And if you notice on these blanks right beside each question number, I am not writing my answer choice. I am writing the question type. So this is where I'm coding. So again, on these blank lines beside each question number, you are writing the code to the question type. So this is a factual question. Where is Luna? So I'm writing an F and I've underlined my keywords here. Number 2. So again, remember, I'm doing the I step and the N step pretty much simultaneously at the exact same time. So I'm interacting with the questions and I'm also noting what I know. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. So number 2, where is the baby? My keywords where and baby. It's asking a where question. I know this answer is going to be right there in the passage. I'm going to go ahead and code my question. It is factual. Number 3, what was almost rusted through? What almost rusted through? It's important to get that word almost in there. So what almost rusted through? So it's asking me to reference something, to identify something in the text. So I know that is a factual question. Number 4, who was located closest to the baby? So who located closest, that's an important one, and baby. This is going to tell me who. It's a who question, so that's factual. Who being that big indicator that tells me it's going to be right there in the text. Number 5, how did Sheila answer the nurse? How Sheila answer and nurse. These are my keywords. How did Sheila answer the nurse? Well, that's an answer I'm going to be able to find right in the text, so that's going to be factual. Now, one thing you notice is I did not read my answer choices. I do not recommend reading answer choices, and it's my personal preference. I do not read the answer choices. Number 1, that takes more time and more energy. Don't want to waste that. Next thing, I don't like to plant answers in my head. I like to figure them out on my own. And third, I don't think there's any reason to read them twice because you're going to have to read them again when you actually go to answer them. So I don't recommend that, but you know what works best for you. So you do what you know suits your learning style best. Okay, so I did the I step, I did the N step. So I interacted with the passage and the questions. I noted what I know. So now I'm going to come down to the F step. So I'm going to find the clues. So I've read my title, Tornado Watch. Now I'm going to actually read the passage. And as I'm reading the passage, that is where I'm underlining my clues. Salim glared at Sheila. But if you're here and Luna's at Hardy's eating lunch, who's watching the baby? I remember my first question was about Luna. And where is Luna? So I found my first answer. Luna's at Hardy's. Now, I know you may be tempted to jump down there and answer your question, but remember, reading detectives collect as many clues as possible. That E step, explore supporting details. Don't return to the question until you've fully read the passage. But if you're here and Luna's at Hardy's eating lunch, who's watching the baby? It wasn't possible, was it? 2 teenage girls had left a 6-week-old infant all alone in a rickety old house. And if that wasn't bad enough, there was a tornado watch on for the whole county. I have more clues right here. I remember I had a question about where was a baby, and here it says infant all alone in a rickety old house. I know infant is a synonym for baby. So there is another clue. Salim tried to use his cell phone to call Luna. She was the closest one to the baby. I had another question. Yep, who was located closest to the baby? So I'm going to underline Luna because Luna is the she. She was closest to the baby. A message on his phone said, low battery. Salim turned to Sheila and told her to drive back to the house as fast as she could, but to watch out for falling branches and any power lines that might be down. Sheila was driving a 74 Ford Fairlane that was almost completely rusted through. Here we go. 74 Ford Fairlane completely rusted through. There are my not only clues, but those are actually keywords from my question. She pulled out into the right lane of McAllister Boulevard and heard a loud truck horn behind her. That was the last thing Sheila heard until she woke up at a hospital several hours later. What is your name? Asked the nurse in the emergency room. I remember I had a question about a nurse. My name? Sheila squinted her eyes. I remember there was a question about what she answered. Sheila squinted her eyes to block out the bright lamps above the examination table. My name is Xena Warrior Princess. That's an odd answer. I'm going to underline that because I remember I had a question that asked how she answered the nurse. My name is Xena Warrior Princess. She didn't know why she said that. She couldn't remember her name, couldn't remember what day it was or what year it was. I have something to tell you, the nurse replied. Something about your leg. Okay, so I went all the way through my passage and I explored supporting details. I made sure to get as many clues as possible before I now return to my questions. So, my first question, I know they're all factual questions, so they're all going to have answers right there in the passage. Where is Luna? That was actually like the second sentence in our passage. It said, but if you're here and Luna's at Hardee's, so let's read our answer choices. A, watching the baby with Sheila. No. Eating lunch at Hardee's. Yes. However, I always read all my answer choices to make sure I'm selecting the best answer. C, driving to an old house. No. D, lying in a hospital bed. No. My correct answer here is B, eating lunch at Hardee's. All right, number 2. Where is the baby? I remember seeing the word infant, and infant is a baby, and it said the baby was alone in a rickety old house. So let's go to our answer choices. Where is the baby? Eating lunch at Hardee's? No. In a car with Sheila? No. With Salim? No. In a rickety old house? Yes. My answer choice is D. Number 3. What was almost rusted through? I believe that was in the third paragraph. Yes. 74 Ford Fairlane. A rickety old house? No. Salim's car? No. A 74 Ford Fairlane? Yes. Salim's cell phone? No. Best answer, only answer is C. Number 4. Who was located closest to the baby? I remember seeing Salim tried to call Luna. She was closest to the baby. So Salim, no. The infant's parents, no. Luna, yes. Sheila, no. So yes, my best answer choice is C. Number 5. How did Sheila answer the nurse? I remember this one because it was a really bizarre answer. She said she was Xena Warrior Princess. Yes, I'm still going to read the rest just to make sure. She said that her leg hurt. No. She said her name was Sheila. No. She wasn't able to speak. No, that's not even true. So my best answer, my only answer is A. She said she was Xena Warrior Princess. And for those of you who are wondering, Xena Warrior Princess was a character on a TV show from the early 2000s, so probably before your time. Okay, so I just modeled for you how you would apply the inference strategy to a passage. So what you're going to do is you're going to apply the inference strategy to passage number 2. It's called Canyon Hike. This is in your Google Drive. So I will pull it up. It says Factual Questions, Passage 2, Canyon Hike. So you are going to apply the inference strategy just like I did to this passage. So it might look a little bit different than how I just modeled for you in my actual lesson. So I'll use the passage that we just went over together to show you how you might find your clues and how you're going to code your questions. So let's pretend we are going through this for the first time. So I'm interacting with the passage and the questions. So I'm going to read my title, I'm skimming. And then when I come down here, and I am not only interacting with the questions, but I'm also starting to note what I know, you can either underline your keywords here, or if you prefer, you can highlight your keywords. Whatever makes your heart happy, whatever your preference is. Oh, I don't know that you want to, I mean, you could change the text color. I guess if you wanted to, you definitely could do that. However you want to notate clues, go for it. Also, remember this blank right here. This blank is not for your answer choice. This is for the question type. So this is where you are coding the question. So I like to make things look nice and neat and uniform. So I know that where is Luna is a factual question. So I'm going to delete that blank space and I'm going to write an F. Let's do number 2 together. Where is the baby? Again, where is one of my keywords. I like to underline. And then baby. It's a keyword. I'm going to underline. Where is one of my possible factual keywords. I know this is a factual question. I code it with an F. So that's how I would work with my questions down at the bottom. Now, when I'm going to select my answer choice, my recommendation would be to highlight your answer choice. maybe select a different color, or if you want to change the font color to notate that that's your answer, go for that. Whatever your preference is or whatever your teacher tells you to do. So highlight, change the color, somehow notate, hey, this is my answer choice. Okay, now coming back up. So when you are finding those clues, you can either underline like we just did in the questions, or you can highlight, however you prefer to notate your clues. So if you remember, Luna's at Hardee's. This was the first clue that we found. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight that clue. Then we also found a clue about the infant all alone in a rickety old house. I'm going to highlight that clue. Please do not skip highlighting your clues. This is a critical part of the inference strategy, and your teacher will be looking for those highlighted clues. So you're going to do exactly what we just did, only you're going to do them on passage number 2, Canyon Hike. So again, if you need to write the inference mnemonic, infer, on a piece of paper beside you, go for it. Make sure when you come down here to the questions that you are underlining, highlighting those keywords. And then this blank right here, if you'd like to delete it, and I put a friendly reminder, it said remember to code each question on the blank. So you're going to write the code. So F for factual questions. And then last reminder, make sure you are highlighting your clues in the passage. Your clues are associated with your questions. So your clues are the answers to your questions. And then, of course, do not forget to R, return to the question, in order to highlight whatever your question or whatever your answer, is. If you have any questions about how to complete this, please make sure you email your teacher or contact your teacher and ask those questions. So again, Canyon Hike Passage 2 in your Google Drive is on your own. You are completing this independently, and your teacher will give you the due date for when you need to make sure you have this uploaded and complete in your Google Drive. Okay, some really quick review. Infer, I, interact with the passage and the questions. N, note what you know. F, find the clues. E, explore supporting details. R, return to the questions. The answers to factual questions are right there in the passage. And our possible factual question keywords: who, what, where, when, why, and how. There are our WH questions, but you have to be careful and make sure that the question is asking you about something that is in the text, something that's in the past that you can underline, prove, and highlight, not a future or a predicting question. So make sure you're analyzing those questions and make sure they are factual questions. All right, next time we meet, we're going to be discussing big picture questions. So again, please make sure you are using your guided notes. They are an excellent resource. All right, thanks so much. See you next time.